Launching. Yeah, it's just a 15-minute thing. All right, in that case, that thing's recording. I told them to watch a pre-recorded one. We'll just continue. The learning won't stop. So, where are we at? We're talking about collaborative tools like Google Docs, Trello, and Slack. I'm going to cross my fingers and hope that I don't have to Google anything while we work on this. Okay, so we have a problem. We have a problem. Let's make some collaborative tools like Google, Trello, or Slack with everything that we know so far. So we know some things like Express, and I know JavaScript, both on the client and the back end, right? Node. I know Ajax. Cool. Just general HTTP stuff. This is my resume right now, right? How do I build a collaborative tool in real time like Google Docs or Trello? Okay, without the WebSockets, like with my current your current resume as of right now. Also, heads up, we're gonna collaboratively like build whatever we're working on today. Like this is gonna be a social construction of knowledge. It's back up, oh, man. All right. Joke's on you, we're back. Okay, yeah. I'll just keep it there. Cool. All right, welcome back, Calgary. So the question was, how do we, together with our current resume of things like Express, JavaScript, I know Ajax, general HTTP stuff. Somebody said the word REST, right? How do I build a collaborative tool, right? Something that's got real-time communication between multiple clients. And what do we do? All right, so we'll start with step one, have a server, right, for our clients to talk to. Cool, okay. What else do we do? All right, set up our routes through Express. Okay, so what kind of routes? You want to give me some examples? Sure, so get and post on specific resources. Sure, so maybe if I'm talking about Google Docs, my resource is a document. Right. You can get and post to a document and put. Cool. All right, well, what else do we do? So having multiple client-side servers. What do you mean by that? So when you say their own server, what does that mean? No, because I think you're heading in like in an interesting direction. But I'm kind of interested. What do you mean by they have to have their own client-side server?
Like whatever you give to individual clients, they see different things. They just have to, because so far we've only been working on one client and one server. And if you want multiple clients being connected to each other, will you have their different situations?
Okay, well, let's see. So far, we've been working with, you're saying one client, one server, right? But did you open up, like, you did Tiny App, and you did Twitter as well, right? Did you open those up in more than one tab? Ever?
Yeah.
Right, but, like, you can, right? Maybe you didn't, but you can open up Tiny App in more than one tab at a time, right? And it's fine, it still works, right? Same with Twitter. You can open that up in more than one tab. So you don't necessarily need, like, in our case here, there's no client-side server, right? Our backend, right, our Express server is sending out a page, right, some views, right? And the client is receiving that on the browser, right? I'll say that we have to have, like, multiple people connected, right? Or, like, loading up a view, right? So more like two different tabs that are going to the same route to get the same thing. But exactly, yeah. So for Calgary, the analogy there was like when we think of a server, we could think of a server in a restaurant. They can bring multiple plates to different people, right? And the server is like the interface between the client, right, or the people in the restaurant and the kitchen, the food. Yeah, that's a great analogy. But what I want to say more is like, okay, so say we have Twitter, or say we have Tiny App. Let's just do Twitter. So we have Twitter, and we were using Ajax stuff to like push. Whoops. So yeah, Ajax to push new tweets, right, in Twitter, right? So in our thing, Ajax, sure, to push new stuff, right? And maybe also we can use Ajax to receive new things, right? We can go get new things, right? But the thing here is I want this to happen in real time. Like I don't want to have to push a button to trigger an Ajax get, right? I don't want to manually trigger a get, right? I don't want to do that manually, right? And I also probably, ideally don't want to manually trigger like a post or put, right? Maybe that happens as I'm interacting with the thing, right? But the idea here is I want this stuff to happen automatically, right? And in real time, right? So how can we do that? Using just the tools that we have so far. Can you? You can. You can. Right. Right. So if this was 10 years ago, then WebSockets weren't a thing, right? WebSockets been around like 6 years, a bit more. But if we were further back, there were real-time tools, right? There were things that happened on the internet in quote-unquote real time. Yeah, MSN Messenger, sure. So MSN Messenger is like, not on the browser, but I'm talking about just on the browser here. Hey, there you go. So if we don't want to manually trigger it, we could set an interval. Okay? We could set an interval for the thing to happen. So okay, for changing something, and then probably pushing, right, and then posting. Okay, so this I'm really interested in. We could set an interval, right, to continuously ask for new data, right? There you go. So setting an interval, that's a good intuition to have. Now, let me outline exactly what the problem is formally. So formally, the thing is, since we are in the browser, right, we have to use HTTP for communication, right? As of right now, right? We have to use HTTP for communication. However, there are two main issues with HTTP for us, right? The first one is that the server cannot initiate a request to the client, right? So this is if something happens on the server, right, using just plain HTTP as we know it, the client does not know about that until it asks for it, right? So the server cannot initiate communication, right? That's the first main issue for us. And the second one is HTTP requests are not persistent by nature, right? They are transactional. And what I mean by this is you make an HTTP request, it kind of just happens and then it disappears, it's gone, right? There's a transaction that's been made and it's like, see ya, talk again some other time, right? I would instead like some form of communication that stays open, right? So I can be like, oh, hey, also this, and then, oh, by the way, also this, and oh, by the way, also this. Like, I can keep coming back to it, and that connection is persistent and open for me, right? And HTTP does not let us do that as it is, right? So if I was to write down a little script for what I mean by transactional, like the client opens, right? The client opens some kind of request, like the request is made, right? Server processes and sends a response, right? And then the client closes, and that's the end of the story with HTTP, right? So I don't want this. Now, your suggestion was to use an interval of some sort, and that takes us into the first solution of this, solution 1, simple polling. Right. So what I mean by saying simple polling is I might be able to constantly send GET requests for new changes. Right? I'm just constantly asking, right? Hey, is there anything new? Hey, is there anything new? Hey, is there anything new? Right? Just over and over again. And the answer might always be no, not yet, no, not yet, no. Oh yeah, now there is something new. Now I know because I've continuously asked. I might ask this, every second, right? Every set little amount of time. So it's almost real time, almost. Right? Because I might ask now, there's no change, and then immediately after there's a change. So if I ask after a second, then I get that change, and there's that little bit of latency, right? And for this, there's 2 options that we're going to look at. Option 1 is done with set timeout, right? And option 2 is done with set interval. All right. So set timeout. Let me make a new file here. We're going to call this simple polling.js. Okay. What was that? Oh yeah, we're going to implement everything from scratch. No, it's going to be 6 lines of code. Don't worry. Cool. So, and then since Nima always forgets how to, I always forget how to code, I've got this written here. Where'd I put it? It's okay. I think I pasted it over here. No, okay. You know what? We'll just do it live. It's fine. Simple polling. So if I wanted to do it with a set timeout takes some callback, right? Some function, and a timeout. A timeout, maybe 1,000 milliseconds, right? Which for the layman is a second. So we might wait a second, and we'll say, hey, let's set a timeout, and we'll go get data. Not gamepad haptic actuator. Whoa.
I want that.
Yeah, game data. Oh, sorry, get data. Right? So might set this timeout, and then I get data every second or so. There's some issues with this. What kind of issues are there? What's that? Yeah, it refreshes every second, right? It's asking for getting data every time, right? Just imagine that this was some function get data that does cool stuff, right? And it's async, right? So every second I'm making a request, I'm handling that thing, but the problem might be that this stuff, since it's async, might return, not when we expect it to. So I might send out a request, and then a second later I send out a request, and then a second later I send out a request. None of those requests have been responded to yet, right? They're just down there. It would be bad if somehow the server, right, replies to all 3 of them, right, out of order for some reason, right? Because that's possible. It could reply to them out of order. Right? I might generally want one request and then another request, after the first one is done, right? So I don't want all of these loose kind of connections just hanging out there, right? And that's what this is doing. This is just keeps adding more and more requests to the pipeline. They're all happening at the same time, right? And again, they could come back out of order, right? So depending on how the server kind of responds to this get data, maybe get data is just supposed to give me back all the people that have been added to the chat list or whatever in the past second or recently, right? This might send this stuff back out of order, right? Let me just say, okay, send out request A, right? Send out request B, and then send out C, and I might receive C, then A, and then B. It's just not something I want to have to deal with to put this stuff back in order. I'd rather just have one connection. When that one dies, I'll send another one. When that one dies, I'll send another one. So set timeout, not the best option for us, which is why we will use set interval, right? So I'll go set interval, here's a thing, and then get data. Oh, no, whoops. This is, OK. And then in here, we get data. OK, what's the problem with this right now? How does set interval work? Oh, I did this backwards. Oh, my God. Yeah. OK. Now I fix this. This was supposed to be set interval the whole time. Yeah. These words, man. So set interval. Let me just recap this so we all know. Set interval runs a thing every however many times, right? So here, I'm running it every second. That's so sorry for that mistake. Set timeout is better, right? And we're going to see why. But if I go set timeout, this only runs it once. There you go. So sorry about that. That was 100% on me. No, it's on you. How did you not catch it?
It was a test.
It was a test. Nobody's getting the job today. This was a group technical interview. Yeah. So set timeout after a second is going to run this, but it only runs it once, right? I want to run this multiple times. Now, what I could do is, hey, whoops, fetch data. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say that we could call this thing like that. So the get data happens in here. Oops. Get data happens, and then it calls itself. Right? So assume that get data took some kind of callback, and eventually it calls itself, like calls the callback. One day. Eventually. It could structure this so that fetch data sets a timeout for a second, then it calls get data, right? And get data, after it finishes, will run fetch data again, right? So it's continuously kind of calling itself, right? But it's only calling itself after it's done, right? So it go 1 second, fetch 1 second, fetch 1 second, right? So there's only ever one thing kind of going, right? This is recursive, right? Except you're not recursing like you did with like loops and stuff. You got a function that's just calling itself. Yeah. So that's a good question. For Calgary, the question was, if I just left this running, would it eventually overflow because I keep adding stuff to the thing? And right, so we want recursion to have some kind of base situation. And in this case, there is no base place, right? There's no base case, so the thing never ends. We're just adding stuff to the call stack. Now, depending on the programming language that you're using, I actually can't vouch for JavaScript here. But you can do a thing like a strategy called tail recursion, right? Just you do all the work that you need to do, and then your final call in that recursive function is to call the function again, right? And the idea is at that point, you don't need any of the rest of this stuff. So if the programming language is being implemented to support tail recursion, what it does is it gets rid of everything it doesn't need and just continues on. So it's a way of forming up recursion that doesn't like blow out the call stack, right? I know that's a bit more technical maybe than like we need right now, but tail recursion? Yeah. There you go. Awesome. What's that? Oh, the snake eating itself? Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So tail recursion will help you with that, right? Because this, I'm not doing anything after this recursive call, right? Like if I had stuff, get data and then do some more stuff here, I can't ditch this stuff off of the stack, right? And it keeps adding itself on because it'll need it. But since I'm not calling anything afterwards, depending on the programming language, it might be smart enough, like in the implementation, to say, hey, there's nothing happening afterwards, so I'll use like a tail recursion strategy so it won't overflow, right? But yeah, no, great kind of insight in there. What's that? Yeah, same. I would think so. If you were to use promises to do that, I guess, yeah. I mean, this is fine enough for now. But our point here is like this is kind of annoying to have to write, right? Plus, it's not really real time. It's not really real time because there's a 1 second delay on everything. Whoa, where'd you go? 1 second delay on everything. Okay. Fun fact though. Fun fact. This the set interval method. No. One of these two. I actually don't know which one. Is KB there? No, he's not. One of these was the way that the assistance request queue, queue, was implemented. For the first little while. So not with WebSockets, but with this kind of polling method. Because this is an actual thing people used to do before WebSockets. Now we're on WebSockets. What's that? Yeah. I mean, people would have to do just polling. Is there any new data, right? This is a hacky kind of solution to get the thing that you want to happen, right? Sometimes the protocols that we have, like HTTP, just don't support the things that we want to do, right? So we'll have to come up with hacks around that, right? So this simple kind of polling, this was the way that a lot of stuff was done. Another solution, there we go, two. Long polling, right? AKA comet. Okay, so this simple kind of polling method, it works. We're seeing how like intuitively it makes sense if I keep asking if there's a change, Ajax-wise, right? But it's annoying. Now, if I was thinking of, I always think of programs as people, right? I don't like the idea of like a person being like, hey, anything new happen? Hey, anything new happen? Hey, what's up? Hey, you up? Anything new? What you doing? What's up? Right? That's annoying. I'm like, no, you know what? Get out of here, right? Yeah, too many of us have had that experience with people. And if you haven't, then you are that person. And it's time to like, it's time to start thinking about real long and hard about yourself. But the other cool option for people to do is, hey, just let me know when something's up, right? Let me know when you're in town, right? That's cool. You're like, all right, no pressure. I'll let you know, right? That's just another alternative to human interaction instead of, hey, what you doing? What's up? Bzz, bzz, like, oh, I'm here. Yeah, I'm outside your door. Just let me know when you're free. So long polling is the alternative where I'll say, hey, you know what? Line's always open. Just let me know when something's up, whenever you want to hang out, right? And what this means is I'll start a connection, right? Let's say the client starts a connection, and again, this is like an HTTP thing, right? Client starts a connection. It says, let me know, and the server replies on their own time, right? The server just kind of lets that hang, right? I guess I am that person. I wait until like enough people have messaged me, and then I'll pick from the pool. And then everyone's like, dude, that was like 3 days ago. I'm not free anymore, right? Like that's, server replies on their own time, right? So the server might have a bunch of connections just hooked up. And whenever something changes, then the server says, hey, something changed, right? And then what happens is that connection closes, right? That connection's over, right? So when the server replies on their own time, then the connection finishes. So the client has to start a new one again. Yeah. Well, I mean, when a server sends back a response via HTTP, that's the end of the thing, right? So we know that with HTTP, I ask you something, you say something back, and I'm like, all right, see ya. And then if I want to do something else, I have to ask you again, and you respond, right? And then I ask you again and you respond, but I always have to initiate that asking, right? So if I ask you and you take 5 minutes to respond, right? I'm just here like, oh, I hope he texts back, you know? And then he responds, right? I'm like, oh, thank you so much, right? And if I want to talk to you again, I have to initiate that, right? Or if I want to wait for like more change of data, I have to initiate that again, right? So we'll call this long polling because it's not a bunch of short polls. It's one long one that stays, right? Comet being there's a request and there's like a long tail of waiting afterwards, right? So say here, client makes an HTTP request. The server replies on their own time, so not right away probably, right? And then, the server will replies with new data, right? There's some pros and there's some cons to this stuff. Pros: fewer requests than simple polling, right? I should have put some pros and cons here as well. Pro, real time. Con, this feels horrible, right? I'm blasting the server with requests. Okay, this just feels inefficient. Hey, Otis. Oh, there's another dog. Wow. Calgary, there's another dog. So blasting the server with requests, like these are pros and cons to simple polling. If we're talking about long polling, a pro would be fewer requests than simple polling. It's much closer to real time because the server will respond as soon as there's new data to send back, right? There isn't that 1 second or 2 second latency that we set up ourselves. And then the responses are guaranteed to come back in order, right? Because there's only one request being made at a time. And there you go. If I wanted to say a con with this one up here also, error handling. How? I don't even know actually how I would really do like a nice form of error handling, especially if I've got multiple responses coming back at the same time. All this stuff is asynchronous. Just bleh. Honestly, same here. Not going to be fun to do error handling. We're looking for a non-hacky solution, right? Both of these solutions are hacky as hell. So I'm looking for non-hacky solutions. Enter the name of the lecture, which was Websockets. Yeah, I wish I had some kind of, actually I guess I do. Where'd the piano go? Like I could play music, like enter, brum. Yeah. What's that? It would change the lecture game, yeah. Just boom, enter the WebSocket. So enter WebSockets. And that's where I'm going to say, let's take a break. Right? I'm going to say, let's take a break. We'll be back in like 10 to 15 minutes, and we'll continue. Hello. Okay. So Calgary, we're gonna start up in a minute. I've been thinking of like working on my teacher aesthetic. You know? Yeah. When I got this job, I genuinely considered getting like fake glasses to look smart, right? I was genuinely considering it. I didn't end up doing it, but there's still time because every new cohort hasn't seen me, right? So I could for the next cohort, just like, you know? Oh, that's true. I'll look like a real hacker. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, yeah. Then I don't have like a dark secret, right? Yeah. Um, yeah. People would get like the movie theater. Punch them out. See, you said that as if you've done it. Like that's the expression. For nerd day. um. All right. Oh, nice. All right. Thank you, Dave. We're gonna pick this back up. When we left off, I just said the name of the lecture, Websockets, and everyone went like, "Oh my God! Oh, it was amazing." Calgary, it just didn't come through on the audio, but they were screaming. It was so exciting, the revelation. Um, yeah. So name of the lecture, Websockets. That's what we're gonna work with right now. I'm going to briefly talk about this stuff, and then we're going to see it in action. With WebSockets, what we'll do is we're going to open up a connection. It's going to stay open, right? And we can communicate back and forth, and it won't close every time. It's the cutest dog. Yeah. So that connection is going to stay open, and we'll be able to communicate back and forth, right? That's the thing. Unlike when we do long polling, the connection doesn't end, right? It doesn't end after a response is sent. We'll be able to go full duplex back and forth communication, right? Now WebSockets is a different protocol than HTTP, right? So you've got HTTP is a protocol, right? WebSockets is a different one, right? Separate protocols, right? They both work on top of TCP, which you have talked about. There you go. So HTTP is a protocol that uses TCP, right? We set our verbs and stuff, and we go post, put, whatever. Like we can set things back and forth. WebSockets is just a different protocol, right? When we have a connection via HTTP, we use HTTP // right? WebSockets is WS // right? This says connect using the WebSocket protocol. So heads up, that's what you're going to be rating. And in order to support the WebSocket protocol, our browser needs to support the following kind of events. There's like an open event when a connection is opened up, right? There's a send kind of event, right, when a message is sent from the browser. There's a receive event. And I'm just talking about the browser right now. So the browser opens a connection, sends a connection, sends a thing, receives a thing, or closes the connection. Right, so there's these like 4 kind of basic actions that we're going to work with. The idea is we're passing messages back and forth, right? So I've got a couple different ideas that we can play around with for the demo. Let's start off very, very basic. So I'm going to make basic chat. All right, we got a basic chat situation. I'm going to have index. I'm even going to do, I don't even want to do anything in the HTML stuff, to be honest. I'm linking in a JavaScript file called main, right? So let's just ignore everything in here. Okay, and I know this says Kanye. I'm just linking in a JavaScript file called main, and if I go look at main, Also, ignore Kanye. If I look at main, there's nothing in there. Okay. So I don't have anything over here. It's just an HTML file. Maybe there's an H1 that says, howdy do. Okay. So if I was to look at this file, okay. If I was to look at this thing, where'd you go? Oh my God. There you go. Okay. Sorry for the dragging stuff around. I'm just setting myself up so I won't have to tab too much. Okay. If I was to open up this basic chat, like index HTML, over here, and you go, hey, index HTML, nothing too surprising, howdy do. I'm just going to open up the console so I can read stuff. Okay, here's my console. Awesome. Now, I want to send stuff from this client to the server using WebSocket connections. So just in the console here, I'm going to start writing WebSocket. Whoa! Autocomplete. Wow. I didn't even finish writing WebSocket and it gave it to me. Cool. Right? WebSock. I'm like, no, I just wanted a sock on the internet. No, WebSocket. Some kind of function. Right? Some kind of function called WebSocket. I'll go new. New. WebSocket. And it says, oh, apparently this thing takes a URL. Let's connect to WS. So we know that we're supposed to use the WS protocol. WS.Mark Zuckerberg's house. There you go. Yeah, he's got it coming now. That's what you get, Mark. I'm connecting to it. So now I've made a WebSocket connection to apparently Mark Zuckerberg's house. Oh, man. Apparently that's, error in connection establishment. There's no such thing as markzuckerbergshouse.com. So actually, I'm going to go save that domain real quick. Let me just put that one aside for later. There we go. So the idea here is I'm making a connection to somewhere using WS. Now, this thing doesn't resolve, right? It doesn't actually work out. If I was to go into network and check for WS, there are a bunch of requests that are being made. They just all kind of fail, right? They'll, none of them are really doing anything. Right? But I can set up a place where I listen for these connections locally, right? I'm going to make a new file. I'm going to call this one server.js. Right? Let me close all of these real quick. Okay. Got basic chat and server. Cool. So server, I'm going to run locally, right? Let's go console.log. Hello. So I will be able to, if I'm in Node, I'm able to go node server.js, right? And I get, okay, hello back. This is fine. Okay. So I want to set up a thing that listens for WebSocket connections and does stuff with them, right? I'm going to use an NPM module for this. And the module that I'm going to use is called WS, right? So 2 letters, WS, WebSockets, and this is going to give me the ability to set up a WebSocket server, right? Something that listens for connections and then responds to them. Okay. If I wanted to install it, I go npm install WS, right? So let's just go ahead and do that. So in this folder right now, I don't have a package JSON, so I'll just create that real quick. npm init-y. Cool. So I've got a package JSON right now. I'm going to go install WS. Cool. So this means that inside of server.js, I'm going to be able to require. Let's go const WS equals require WS. And I want a console.log. Actually, I've never done this before. Let's see what WS even is. Let's see this. Cool. So I'm just going to run node and just see what it is. Okay, whoa, I get a whole thing back. right? Cool. There's a server function, there's a receiver function, and there's a sender function apparently. Cool. So I've got this thing. Let's look at the docs. I don't like doing things on my own. I like using documentation. So if I look over at the documentation, there's things like, okay, I bring in WebSocket, and then I can make this WSS, new WebSocket server. So WSS stands for WebSocket server, right? I can make a new server with some options. I'm gonna copy this one that says simple server real quick. And we're gonna look at how this is working. Cool. So I'm bringing in WS. I've called it WebSocket, a WebSocket like module. WebSocket.server on port 8080, right? So I'm starting a server on this port. People are going to be able to connect to this with, ws://localhost 8080. That's going to be able to connect to the WebSocket server. And then I attach some listeners, right? And this is important. I'm saying that the WebSocket server, anytime there's a connection, right? So on a connection to this WebSocket server, this is what you do with that connection, right? This is what we do. And what I'm saying with this is I'm saying, okay, with that connection, I'm going to call it WS, right? I'm going to call it WS, just WebSocket. With that thing, I'm going to attach a listener to that WebSocket connection, right? And I'm saying anytime that WebSocket connection sends me a message, right? Anytime I get a message from that WebSocket connection, here's what I'm going to do with that message. What am I doing with the message? Yeah, I'm printing it to the console, right? And then also, right, not only am I attaching this listener, I'm also saying, hey, to that connection, let's send this string that says something. Right? So I'm doing two different things. I'm setting a listener, and I'm also setting some data. Right? And the listener says anytime I get a message from the WebSocket connection, right, I'm going to print out whatever I've received. Okay, if I was to run this now, it just hangs. It hangs. And we've seen this before with Express, right? This is running now, and it's just listening. Right? And if stuff comes in, it's going to start printing stuff out. Now, I don't like it just hanging because it kind of spooks me. So what I'll do is I'll say, hey, yeah, console, yeah, ooh, October, console.log listening on port 8080. Cool. Just so that, cool, I know it's listening on port 8080. I just feel more comfortable now. Right? And, I could go to, let's go to localhost port 8080. And right now I get this thing that says upgrade required. So how am I connecting to localhost 8080 right now? HTTP, right? I'm not connecting with WebSockets, right? So upgrade required means, hey, for like the server is saying that if you want to be able to communicate with me, you need to upgrade the protocol that you're using from HTTP to WebSockets, right? We don't have to do that manually. I'm going to be, instead of connecting through the URL here, I'm going to be passing in like the protocol in the string. So if I was to go over to index.html, the main JS here, what I should be able to do now is create a WebSocket connection to our server, right? And then arbitrarily send data and have it, pop up on the server. Okay, so I should be able to do this. Now, the code for that, where did I put it? Front end, main.js, cool. Right, ignore everything real quick. Avert your eyes. Okay, so I've made a new WebSocket connection, 8080, right? And I'll see that when I run this right now, I don't get that error that I was getting before. Like, I don't get these, right? The name not resolved. Instead, it's just not going to say anything and it's fine, right? It's making a connection. If I went over to network and I filtered by WS, I can see that it is making some connection. It's fine, right? And now I'm free to communicate within that. You can also see that I received downvote. Yeah, I received this down red arrow. I'm seeing it under frames. So if I click on the particular, whoa, what did I do? Let's start from scratch. If I was in console, I went to network. From network, I went to filter by WS. And then I can click on the particular one that I'm looking at, right? My localhost WebSocket connection. Okay? If I click on frames, then I'll see all the data that's passed back and forth via that connection. So I've apparently received, the down red is received, the data something. Right? And if I was to go over here, I can see that I've written my server.js to send something anytime somebody connects. And I've also set it up so that anytime somebody sends a message, right? Anytime somebody sends a message, it console logs that message, right? So I could, in basic chat, write some code to arbitrarily just send some data. Let me take this real quick. Okay. So we can add some listeners to our socket connection that we're creating on the front end, right? Right now, I'm adding a listener that says, hey, when the socket opens, right? When the connection opens, then I want you to do this, right? And what I want to do here is I'm sending a message, and that message is just the string new connection, right? So now anytime the page loads and this script runs, it creates a connection, and on the opening of that connection, it'll send a message, right? So I can go ahead and I can refresh this, and I'll see that if I was to look into the frames of that WebSocket connection, not only does it receive something, but it also sends a new connection, right? It sends the phrase new connection. And if I was to go over to my terminal, right, I've received that string, new connection, okay? And the only reason that I'm printing that out is because I've written this here. When I receive a message, console log that message, right? I'm really trying to make this as explicit as possible. We're creating our WebSocket server. We say what happens when a new connection happens to that server. Here I've attached a listener, right? And here I'm sending some data, right? Okay, I could also, send data to that particular thing. Howdy do, right? So let me take the server down real quick. Back up, I'm listening. So now when this thing refreshes, it has created a new connection, right? So it sends new connection at the beginning because I wrote that. I wrote on open like send thing. I've received back something, right? And I've also received back the string howdy do because I said to send back howdy do. Okay? Now right now I'm only working with one client and one server, right? We're only going to have one server, but we might have more than one client. Let me open this up in a separate tab real quick. I'm just going to rearrange this so it's a bit easier to see. Okay. So, refresh this, refresh this. They both, if I was to look at the, oh man, this is super annoying, isn't it? There you go. They both send data, they both receive data independently, right? There you go. So this one made a new connection and sent something, received something and received howdy do, and so did this one when it made its own connection, right? So send is sending it to the thing that connected, not everyone, right? Just the thing that connected, right? So just want to see if I refresh this, right? I've got that happening here. Notice that the times 10:23:02, 10, 23, 39, right? These are two separate clients connected to the same server. Okay, now, I might want to send stuff to everyone, right? Send stuff to everyone. Like a new person has joined the room or whatever, right? I can do that by keeping track of the clients that have connected to it. I'm going to make an array called clients. And I'm going to say every time, you just indent this because that's going to drive me insane. I'm going to say that every time somebody has connected, right? Every time somebody's connected, I'm going to take clients and I'm going to push that new connection to it. Yes?
On line 9, where you have function connection takes parameter WS,
Mm-hmm.
is there anything special about that particular function, or is it just a generic callback function called connection?
It's a generic callback. Oh, good point. Yeah, so these things, you don't have to name them. In the documentation, they've named them just so they're like, oh, you can look at it and you see what it's doing, right? It can be an anonymous function. Yeah, honestly, I would probably write it as an anonymous function. Good catch. Yeah, you can name them whatever. Yeah, for clarity, right? This is, I mean, it's analogous to leaving a comment for yourself, right? Now, I just don't like named functions being passed in. I just don't like that. So clients.push, that connection, and now clients is going to hold all of the connections that are being like made, all those clients. And what I can do is, wrong way. Okay. So clients.push. What I can do is on a message, okay, instead of just going ws.send like I had before, I could say that on a message, what I'll do instead is I will loop through all of the clients, right? Loop through all of the clients that I have in this array, and for each client, if that client is currently open, right? Because notice I'm adding clients, but I'm not removing clients. So if I open a bunch of new tabs and then I close them, right now I'm not removing them from here, so there's going to be a bunch of dead connections, right? So here I'm saying let's loop over that array, and if that connection is currently open, right, and that connection is not my current client. Actually, let me delete that. I don't need that line. Just this. If the thing is currently open, send to that client that message.
So the ready state and open, those are parts of WebSockets.
Exactly. So I can check inside of a client what the ready state is, and that's going to be some value. And WebSocket.open, that's a constant that we can check, right? Check with. You can check to see WebSocket.open is probably going to be some number or something, right? But they've written it like this as a constant, so you can check to see that these two things. Very cool. So now, every time I receive a message, it's going to be sent to everyone, right? Everyone. Right, let me take the server down real quick. Oops, wrong one. Take the server down, bring it back up. And now for both of these, anytime somebody's connected, right, then that connection message has been sent to everyone. So this was the first person to connect, this one on the right, because I refreshed it first. And if I look over at the frames, right, it's made a new connection, right? It receives something, and then it sends out new connection. From server, it sends out that message, new connection, has just been echoed out to everyone who's connected, right? And at the time, this client here was the only one that was connected. Then, this client also connects. So, this client sends the word new connection, right? It receives back something, and then the server also echoes out this original message to everyone who's connected, which has just happened to be this client and this client, right? So this client's message gets echoed out to both of them, and this client only got the message echoed out to them because there was nobody else connected at the time. That's why right now I have 4 things here and 3 things there, right? Does everyone understand that? Awesome. Okay, so I've received that message. It's not that useful to just see it inside of the frames. So what I might want to do is on the front end, I might want to actually listen for that, right? So let me.
Quick question about the array that you set up.
Yeah, yeah.
So if a client disconnects and it's pushed into that array, does that mean that client will forever be stuck in that array?
So you would have to do. So there's WS on message. There's WS dot on something like close or disconnect, and then you'd have to go and mutate that array, right? And yeah. Exactly. So if somebody for Calgary, if somebody disconnected, and we don't want them with their dead connection just hanging around in the client's array, we'd have to manually go and delete that, right? With the WS module. But there's many other modules that let us do WebSocket stuff. We're using WS today, but I invite you to look at the other ones. I'll put a link to one in the notes. So I'm going to write that down for myself right now before I forget. Socket.io. Okay. There's no way I'll forget that. Okay. So what I want to do is in the same way that I've set up a listener on my client side for open, I'll also want to set an event listener for some other thing, right? Now VS Code is giving me some options, right? Close, error, message, open. I want to listen for a message event, right? And there's something that I want to do with that message. And something that I want to do with that message. Right now, I'm going to console log, hey, a new message from the server. Well, let's see what that is. Right. So now my front end also listens for new messages and has them printed out. If I was to go over here and I'll refresh, and I check the console, I'm listening for those messages being passed in on the client side, and I can print them out. Okay, and see, this is a weird message event. Like it has a bunch of stuff, bubbles. So it's an event, right? It's one of those event objects that we've seen before. Particularly, the thing that I'm interested in is this data, right? Message data, something, because it might be something useful. Okay, now I want to hop into a little bit of a demo that I have for this. So okay, so I thought it'd be fun to play around with WebSockets and do something that's not a chat app, because you're building a chat app anyways. Figured I'd show you a couple other things that you can do. So we can pass any kind of arbitrary data back and forth, right? It has to be a string. So if we wanted to pass an object back and forth, we'd have to stringify it, right? We'd have to go JSON.stringify and then pass that thing, right? So anytime we do this send, the stuff in here has to be some kind of string, right, for us. So if you wanted it to be an object, you'd have to like have a JSON object, but that's all. Like it would have to be a JSON object that can be stringified and parsed, right? Now, what I've built for us today is, let's see, HTML. Okay, just another HTML boilerplate. I've got the word hello, and then there's an ID called player, right? I'm gonna get rid of the ID called player. I'm gonna put in an image called Kanye. Yeah. Now, I found out that there's a Tumblr called Kanye Heads, and I've gotten some good mileage out of this. Let me tell you. Yeah, so little Yeezy heads. But what I'm gonna do with the little Yeezy head is I picked one. I've brought it in as an image. So if I was to go over to that actual page, which I have under content index HTML. Right now, I just have a teeny little Yeezy, or just way up in the top, right? Little yay. Now, I want to see the little yay in both of them. Let me open this up. Okay, we got little Kanye. What I want to do is be able to like move around my mouse and have Kanye kind of move on both of them, because I just thought that'd be really funny. because we can pass arbitrary data back and forth, right? Just X and Y stuff. So what I figured would be fun was, hey, I'll attach like a listener to the thing. Let me go main.js. Here's my body. There you go. I can attach a listener to the whole body of the document. Nate, actually, let me see what body is right now, real quick. Oh, body's like teeny tiny, eh? Oh, and I've made my image like absolute. So let me really quickly change my CSS so body takes up 100% of the screen. Okay, there we go. So I want to be able to move my mouse around and have Kanye follow my mouse. So I could add some kind of query selector to the body that attaches an event listener for mouse move and then just console logs whatever the position of my mouse is all the time. Right? So I'm moving my mouse around, right? And down here it'll say what is the X and Y position of that mouse. Right? And then what I could do with this is I could take actually didn't fully try this out before, so we're just going to play around with it. I could take that thing. So I'm working in 110. Okay. Okay. So I've got that query listener. I've just put it into the JavaScript file so I don't have to like write it every time. There you go. So that's all good. And now maybe what I want to do is when I get the mouse X and mouse Y, event.client X and Y is event.client Y. I'm going to stringify that. So JSON.stringify. Let's see if I can even get this to work. It would be cool. String pose. And then I want to do something like socket.send that string position. All right, I just want to send that position. So I need to have the WebSocket connection made here, which I had basic chat. I have to do this little event listeners and WebSocket connection right here. Oh, so many files. Oh my God. Okay. So here's my WebSocket connection at 8080. I'm not going to do anything on open. I don't really care. Or whatever. I don't care. I'm not going to do anything here. What I'm going to do is every time there's a message coming from the server, I want to console log that new position. It just console log it. And then at the same time, I'm also going to add an event listener for mouse move like that, and socket.send that string position. Cool. And if I was to go over to the server, let's make a server.js in here. I'm going to close every single one of these million files. It won't even let me close them all. There you go. So over inside a server, I'm going to have to do the same thing that I did before with basic chat, which was start listening at 8080, and anytime there's a new message, to each client, I'm going to push that message. Right? To every client, I'm going to push that message. So now, both of these, right, as I'm moving around, right, that new position is being sent. Yeah. See, this one's receiving that new position, right? Because I have this sending to everyone, like forwarding that message to everyone, right? And what I can do now is inside of this thing, I'm listening for a new message. Instead of just console logging that message, what I could do is find Kanye, and say, hey, so Kanye by ID, find Kanye and set the style of left equal to, actually, let me go pause. So let pause equal JSON.parse message.data. So left equals pause.x and right equals pause.y. And I just want to make sure that I'm parsing it properly. Does this look okay? Yeah? Okay. Cool. So now over here, as I pass the stuff in, okay, cool. So it is getting the position, X and Y. Oh, right. When I'm setting the position in CSS, sorry, in CSS I have to go, I have to write the word PX after it. There you go. So I can move. Oh, he's moving here. That's cool. Not really moving over there, though, eh? I am getting the data. New position. Oh, because I didn't refresh this one. There we go. Hey. Woo, woo. So I've got the X working, but apparently not the Y. But we get the idea, right? Whoa. Whoa. Now, oh god, that's too much fun. And you can have as many of these as you want.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Whoa. Oh my god. So I don't know. I think that's fun. Let's see. Do we see why the position Y doesn't work? Oh, because I wrote right. It's supposed to be top. That's why. Yeah. So I'll just refresh all of these. Whoa. A little swarm of Kanye Wests and just bzzz, bzzz. I say weird things. You have to defend me in front of a bunch of people all the time. Bzzz. Yeah. Oh god. Yeah. I'm not even gonna say that. Yeah. But I don't know. I just think this is a lot of fun. Websockets. Woo. Better than just chat apps, right? Now I have a thing that I've also already built. So there's a song I really like called. This isn't Kanye. It's a dude named Kyle Bent. Right? And Kyle Bent has a song called Higher Power. he might. I don't know. Kyle Bent has this song called Higher Power. This is probably my favorite music video of all time. Because he filmed it in like a dorm room building. So it's him walking around just rapping, you know, it's a good time. And he's pretty good. But it's more like the army of people in the dorm that he has like follow him. Yeah, and they're all just so awkward and cute. It's just adorable. Like, they're having a great time. And as they keep going through this place, more and more people join in on them. Yeah, I don't know, they're all just such good friends. It gets really big. So he keeps going through like different areas, and then he keeps meeting more people. And this guy here, he doesn't get a handshake, so he just dabs. This guy's way too cool for school. Yeah, like it's just a tour around the dorm building, and then there's this one dude who also is just way too cool, just hanging out. It's just having a good time. And at the end of it, you know, they all meet up again and they go into like a cafeteria area, and I don't know. It's just I think it's the most adorable video on the internet. They're just having a great time. So I thought, you know, hey, this song it slaps, right? It bangs. It's a good song. I've only got one speaker, but you have speakers, right? So what if we crowdsourced like the music, like the speakers, so we can have them all play at the same time? So I looked up the YouTube JavaScript API. Right? So there's a YouTube player you can embed YouTube videos on your HTML, right, like this. Nothing surprising about that, right? Right. Have we all seen how that kind of works before? You can control these things. It's a DOM element, right? So you can control them. There's a whole API for it, right? Stop video, right? I can listen for the change of an event, like of the video, right? So if the YouTube video is currently playing, the demo that they have here is the YouTube player starts. So on player ready, play video, and then whenever the player, like if it starts playing after 6 seconds, it stops itself. That's all, right? That's not very fun, but what is fun is, okay, so here, I have front end. Let me rename this. Okay. So what I've done, I'll walk you through the way the code works. I don't want to write it all out from scratch, just because it'll get messy and I will make mistakes. Just make sure that let's delete Kanye real quick. In case of Kanye, break glass or whatever. I just find that funny. Okay, so making sure I don't have any code in here that I don't need. I'll keep that. Okay, so what I have is I'm making a WebSocket connection to the port 4000, right? 4000. So I need a server to handle this eventually. But I'm making a WebSocket connection to the port 4000. Let's ignore send sockets real quick. I'm adding an event listener to that socket that says, hey, when you open up, just send the server that message new connection. And now I'm also adding to like socket, whenever there's a message on socket, we did this before as add event listener, right? You can do it like socket.onMessage as well, same thing. So whenever there's a message, with that message, I'm console logging the word woo and the message. Yeah, woo. Just always console log stuff for yourself to make sure that stuff is coming through correctly, right? And let's ignore both these send sockets and set timeout real quick. Okay. What I'm doing is I'm setting a switch on the message data. And the message data is going to be one of 3 kinds of things, right? It's either going to be the word play, or it'll be the word stop, or it will be something else, right? And I'll tell you that that something else is going to be some timestamp, right? So if I get the message play, I'm going to go to my player and I'm going to play the video. If I get the message stop, I'm going to go to my player and pause the video. And if I get a timestamp, I'm going to seek to that particular time. Okay? So these are things that I get from the YouTube like embedded player API, right? And if I was to look over here, the YouTube stuff, I'm creating an element called script that's loading in the iframe stuff, right? I've put in the video ID for Kyle Bent's video. My player is this height and this width, and then my player takes some events like on ready and on state change, right? On player ready, I'm not doing anything, so the video doesn't do anything when you load up the page. And anytime the video state changes, which would be either pausing, playing, or seeking to a different place, if I'm playing, I will send the message play, and I will also send what my current time is, right? So player.getCurrentTime, I just looked in the API documentation. This gets me a number in seconds of how far into the video I am. And this thing over here, if I'm not currently playing and there's a state change, then that means I send the message stop. Okay? And again, this needs to be then implemented on the backend. So if I was to go to my backend, I have this thing here, and I've set it up so, is this it? No, where'd you go? Content. Oh, Nima, what'd you do? Okay, there we go. Whenever I receive a message on the back end, I'm broadcasting it out to everyone, right? Broadcasting it out to everyone. Now, I want to talk real quick about what this part here means. I said I told you to ignore the word send sockets. Right? The thing is, if I click play, I'm sending that message to everyone, right? And then everybody starts playing, right? But since everyone starts playing, everybody's state has changed, so everybody's sending message to the socket server. So that sends it to everyone again, so people click play again or pause, or so it keeps freezing and going back and forth. The worst one is if you seek to a different time, everybody keeps getting rebounded back and forth in that time. So what I've done is I've made a flag called send sockets, and anytime there's a message being sent out, I set it to false for 500 milliseconds, and then I send it back to true, right? Just so that it's not flip-flopping back and forth all the time. Right? If this feels weird, we can talk about it later, but yeah?
Is that kind of like a Jimmy Rig way of doing it, or is that actually the proper way to do it?
I mean, I guess it's called a semaphore kind of situation, or a mutex, right? It's not necessarily a Jimmy Rig situation. I'm actually setting a timeout because I don't want anything to happen for 500 milliseconds, right? I might lower this, yeah. Oh yeah, if they had a really laggy connection, then you'd have to figure out some kind of better way of doing it. I would maybe what I would do is I'd need to have different ways of checking to see if the state has changed. Has the state changed because I changed it, or has the state changed because the server told me to change it, right? And then I'd add different event listeners for those two different ones. So if the server told me to set state, if the server told me to change my state, then I won't send any socket info. And if I'm changing the state because I dragged the thing, then I will send stuff, right? Yeah, I don't want to dive too deep into that in main lecture just because I don't want it to get more confusing than it kind of needs to be. But what I have now is I can have two different, let's say goodbye to Kanye real quick. Bye-bye. Let's go to front end. Whoops. Oh, no, wait. What was it? Oh, whoops. I forgot to change this stuff in the HTML file. Index HTML. Where'd you go? There you go. I need to get rid of Kanye and put in the player. That's what it is. Yeah. So, cool. So I've got these videos. And if I start playing one, it should play on the other one. Let's see. Well, I guess not. Well, let's see what's going on. I can always check the WebSocket stuff to see if anything's even being passed through in the first place. So WebSockets. Oh, the errors, these errors, oh, WebSocket. Okay, so that is an actual error, but some of these are from my ad blocker. But yeah, no, good call. Right. The other thing that I didn't do was turn off the server in the first place and actually run it. So node server.js. There we go. So now the server is running, and I have it running on port. I have this server running on port 4000. Cool. So now both of these should, yeah, theoretically connect. So you start playing, and they're both synced. And if I skip forward on this one, then the other one skips forward too. Right? It's just, it's a, yeah, so I pause this one, and the other one pauses. I play this one, and they both play. Yeah. Huh? Oh, the 500 milliseconds is just so that when this thing gets set, right, it doesn't send back, trigger, so they don't, flip-flop back and forth between frozen, right? The latency is just because it's buffering, right? So if I pause it and play, usually it fixes itself up. If I pause and play, right? So what I thought would be fun was if we all does anybody here have the laptop on right now? Cool. So you might be able to, yeah. So. Well, if you go to this link right here.
Okay. Can you send it through Slack?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we have to do this.
Okay, so I'm sending it to Calgary. So you could click on it Although I don't know how well it will work with like tons of people. We'll find
Let's see
out.
what happens.
Yeah.
I want to see how laggy it
And then we're Vancouver 27th. So here's your link. You should be able to click on that link and it'll take you to, oh, upgrade required. Oh, no, you know what it is? I totally forgot to put this into an Express thing. Give me a single second. No, okay. Oh, no. I don't know if I can get this to work on. Okay, I'm using a thing that does it through LT. Okay, Calgary might not be able to do this. Give me 1 sec, and we're gonna hack a thing together real quick. Okay, so this thing is on port 4000. Oh, WebSocket server. Okay, WS. Nah, you know what? I think I just don't want to keep you for very long because we're already at 10:54. Okay. WS open port.
Well, how about if you get it working?
Yeah, I mean, I could do that. No, because the thing is, I want to make this visible to everybody on here. But I've only done this inside of my house.
Alright, so let's all.
Like I haven't done this on the Lighthouse Wi-Fi. But when I get it working, I'll tell you all. We'll just get together and we'll jam out for a little while. Yeah. Cool. As of that's what WebSockets are.
You just Slack us all, and then all our computers will start randomly playing music.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, because I'm a hacker. Anyways, thanks for sitting in today. I hope you enjoy WebSockets, and if you have questions, let me know. Thank you, Calgary. Yeah. See, if I get it working in the next couple of minutes, I'll let you know. No problem. Also, the notes will be out in a little bit.